Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon. I'm over this shit, Martin.
And I'm looking for Tamara.
Patrick, here we are for The Strangers Chapter 2. By my intro, you can probably tell. You know what, though? Let me just say this up front. Like, we haven't ranked our 2025 movies yet. We're going to do that in December, as we always do, one of our favorite episodes of the year. Now, I
Great.
think it's pretty well documented that, I've loved Sinners. I've loved 28 Years Later. Weapons, for me, was a really good one. I haven't really thought about, I haven't really put everything in ranking, but The Strangers Chapter 2, let me just tell you, is nowhere on that list. Let me just tell you that ahead of time.
Oh, really? It's not going to be on the list? You're kidding me, Damon. Why? Why is that?
It is not, oh man,
Damon, why don't we just get into it? The Strangers Chapter 2 released in September of 2025, starring the likes of Gabriel Basso as Gregory, Jake Cogman as young Scarecrow, Pippa Blaylock as young Tamara, Nola Wallace as young pinup girl, and of course, Damon, Emma Horvath as Shelley slash pinup, and starring Madeline Pesh as Maya. Don't forget Richard Brake, by the way, as Sheriff Rotter. Shout out to Richard Brake. We love him. As you mentioned, Damon, written by Alan R. Cohen and Alan Friedland and directed by the great and legendary Rennie Harlan. The Strangers Chapter 2 is here, Damon, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't looking forward to this. And then I went to go see it. And I'm going to put my foot in my mouth right now, Damon, because the truth is, I didn't know how bad I was not looking forward to this movie.
so we had a lot of our friends, our horror talk friends, attend Fantastic Fest a couple days ago, and they started dropping reviews. And you know me, with the vast majority of those, I like them to support our friends, but then I scroll past because I don't want to know anything,
Yeah.
even though great reviewers like our buddy Slasher Talk Justin and Chuck, your movie guy, they're not dropping spoilers, but I like to go in completely clean. They're getting like really advanced screenings. But I did watch a couple of the Strangers reviews just because I'm like, I know where this story's going, or at least I have a pretty good idea where it's going, at least based on the couple of trailers I saw. And I was like, I'm not really worried about, I mean, unless they're just going to full out tell me the identity of the killers, there's really not a whole lot you could spoil for me for this movie. So I did watch the reviews, and I think it's safe to say they were not all that positive. Now, I got to be honest, I didn't go into this with a lot of expectation thinking it was going to be amazing. And to be fair, I think that actually is a good thing because, I think people do go into certain movies. Like, I feel like I read a lot of people recently bashing Sinners because like, oh, it wasn't as good as everyone said it was. And I think that's the nature of the beast when something is either universally praised or universally hated. You get an impression going into seeing it, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be the greatest thing since this is gonna be the greatest thing since whatever, Citizen Kane or The Godfather or Alien or whatever. And
Right.
when it's not that, you're like, oh, it was a piece of shit. I didn't like it. It wasn't what you said it was. And then there's the other side where everyone hates it, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna hate it too. There's like a fun, like you got like a communal thing. Everyone's got to hate on it. And to their credit, sometimes it does pay off. Madam Web is a great example of a movie that was just absolute dog shit and ended up being absolute dog shit. But I didn't have high expectations for The Stranger, so in a weird way, I went in just hoping it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And I know that's like setting the bar awfully low. Patrick, I'm here to tell you it is as bad as I thought it might be, and somehow, thanks to one scene in particular, which we will not talk about in non-spoilers, I think actually pushed it over the top to where I think I actually disliked it more than I thought I was going to dislike it going in. This is a rough watch, Patrick. It's a rough watch.
This is a rough watch. I feel like it's going to be a short podcast. I feel like we put maybe 25 minutes in max on this podcast. Like, I don't know what else to say about this movie. And there's a good reason for that. It's not just because I want to join the hate. I'm fully ready to come into a movie and go, you know what? I think everybody was wrong, or I think everybody missed something. And by the way, before our podcast, I went and searched out. I couldn't find anybody that we knew that liked it, but I found a couple people I'd never heard of who were like, I actually really enjoyed it. And I think those people, they don't really care if a movie has an interesting story. That was what I was like gathering from their reviews. We're just like, hey, it's like a slasher. What's the big deal? Like like clearly it's just like I don't care if there's a story. Just do the things where you scare me and people run around with big knives. And that you do get that in this movie. I just think that my issue with this is that, or at least my issue with this trilogy, which was announced with much fanfare. Here comes Rennie Harlan, a master of his craft, and Madeline Pesh, who I believe was Riverdale, right?
Right, Riverdale. Yep.
Yeah, Riverdale. I've met Madeline Pesh a couple times, a very sweet person. And so you just go, okay, cool. Like there's some interesting elements in place, and we are touching on some hallowed ground here because The Strangers is, I think, one of the more interesting films that has come out of the past 25 years in horror, directed by the great Brian Bertino, starring Liv Tyler. That was a fantastic movie. So it was really intriguing. It pulled everybody in. And then the first movie comes out and it is, no spoilers here, but a complete retread of Brian Bertino's movie. And you're like, well, why? We already saw it. Why are you doing it again? And they were like, well, it's to set up the next movie, just so you'll have the next movie set up. And that's where we are today, Damon. And what they set up in Strangers Chapter 1, which is just a straight up retelling of The Strangers, to me does not pay off here. To me, I don't know what they set up exactly, other than this woman was attacked by the strangers. You could have done that in the opening credits of this movie and then just started on the journey that is this movie. I didn't need a full remake of The Strangers to get to this point. And I'm sure that someone somewhere was like, well, people might not be as familiar with it as we think, or maybe it's worth kind of revisiting the idea of the original Strangers first. And clearly it wasn't, and clearly the fans spoke loud and clear and they weren't into it. And the producers and Rennie Harlan responded in kind and made changes to the movie. And what we got here, Damon, was best I can tell, a money laundering scheme. Like for whatever reason, they're making movies where nothing is going on. The first movie, they were like, cool, we'll just remake Strangers Chapter 1 or Strangers and just call it Strangers Chapter 1 and then we'll collect our money. Strangers Chapter 2, I mean, I don't even know if I can spoil this movie for you. If you've seen the trailer, that's the movie. Like it's a woman running from the strangers. That's what this movie is. We'll get into some minutia here and spoilers in a minute, but I just went, we needed a whole other movie. We needed two full movies to get back into this world. And by the end of Strangers Chapter 2, I'm two movies deep, 3+ hours worth of film, and I still don't know why we needed to revisit this. Why can't we just get to whatever's going to happen in Strangers Chapter 3? Because clearly they're trying to like build towards that. You mentioned it in the intro. If people didn't hear, there was this massive 200 and what 90-page script or something that
Yeah.
they presented with the studio and said, "Here it is. Here's our opus." I don't know who read that script, but I would have just thumbed through the first, oh, I don't know, 220 pages and been like, we don't need any of that. Let's go ahead and just go to the last 70 minutes. The last 70 minutes is probably what we want. I think that's why I'm a little bit irritated tonight, Damon, because I've watched two Strangers movies so far, and I don't know why they exist. And this is a thing, this is a big thing when pitching movies, and obviously with Rennie Harlan and certain producers in play, they probably don't need to convince the studio of this. But if I'm Joe Schmo, if I'm Patrick Guerin, I'm trying to convince the studio, I need to convince them why we need to make this, why it's so urgent. I challenge the producer team to come forward and explain why it was absolutely urgent that these two movies come out because they proved nothing on the screen.
So I'm going to disagree with you with one thing you said there, not like in a bad way disagree, more of just like clarifying. And I know you agree with what I'm about to say, which is they didn't remake The Strangers into The Strangers Chapter 1, they rebooted and did it far less good. It was not like it was like the
So you're
Timu.
just correcting me to trash it a little more, is what you're
It
saying.
was like the Timu version of Strangers. Like it was like the Wish version of Strangers. Like you ordered the Strangers and you got the straight to DVD Walmart version is what it felt like. Like it just was everything that was scary and original about the Strangers was basically rehashed and rebaked into the Strangers Chapter 1, except it wasn't good. It wasn't scary. It wasn't original. Nothing about that film stood out. And all the criticisms I have about that movie still stand true today, from the weird town to the creepy people. It was just a poorly made movie. And you come into this second one, and I'll admit, like right off the bat, when I heard that when they responded to the reaction of the first movie, I said we got to go back and shoot some additional scenes and kind of recraft this a little bit. Totally disagree with that. If you got a vision for your movie, then see it through. Now it may be
I
a shit
agree.
vision, it may be a
Yeah.
bad vision, but I remember when we reviewed the Fear Street trilogy a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and they came out over 3 weeks. They had no time to go in and reshoot if somebody didn't like it. Now, that was a brilliant trilogy. I loved that one. I know you really enjoyed it as well. But it was done. It was like they're releasing it week to week. There was no going back and recutting just because like the first movie didn't land the way people wanted. They had it ready to go, and that's what it's out in the world. I don't like the idea that like, well, because I'd read an interview right before the podcast with Rennie Harlan talking about people didn't want this, they didn't want that, so we kind of changed a few things, and he said ultimately it really changed for the third movie. And I'm just like, what? Like, you had a vision. You made it sound like this 290-page epic script was like a Bible, basically, for this movie series. Why are you going back and changing it now if you believed in it so much? And here's my theory, Patrick, and maybe I'm wrong, and I've never really sat in studio rooms when they decide these things, but it almost feels like this ginormous script was handed in, and they're like, hey, we have an idea to revamp The Strangers, which is a beloved cult classic film. We're going to reboot it, but we're going to give you 3 of them and in a row, and we can shoot it for a pretty cheap price. Because I think I said the budget on this movie is $8.5 million. I don't know if that's the budget for all 3 movies, or it was just because I know they shot this over like 52 days. So like all 3 movies were done in the span of what a normal movie takes to shoot one. So obviously pretty cheap. And listen, they made their money back. The last movie was $48 million at the box office. That's not a huge amount of money, but on an $8 billion budget, that's pretty damn good. And even if they spent $8 million on each movie, that's $24 million. They've already doubled that with the first movie. So they're in the black already based upon the financials. You know what I mean? Like they made $48 million on the first movie. They spent, I'm just saying if it's $8.5 million per movie, they've already made their money back. Doubled it actually. So at this point, they may just be playing with house money. Who cares? But I do know they are putting promotion in this. Like I said, they went out to Fantastic Fest. They had everyone dressed in the outfits. I've seen a million trailers. And I know there's been a lot of push, publicity-wise. I know Madeline Pesh has been doing interviews left and right, and I've seen her everywhere. So they are pushing this. This is still getting pushed as a major feature film. But what I struggle to comprehend is why. Why did this movie get made? And I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about both of these movies. Like you talked about, like just flipping past 200 pages and getting to the last 90 because you're like, I don't know what. Like everything I've seen to this point, I already knew. This is one of those films, and I was thinking about this while you were talking. I was trying to come up with an idea in my head, but I wanted to listen to what you were saying. I was trying to think, like, what other movies in history have we said in horror history, not just film history. In horror history do we have where like we don't need a sequel, and the one that popped in my head, and I'm sure someone will be like, well, we could see what happens the next day. I understand that, but like Seven is a perfect film. The ending is so devastating in that movie. Now, could you potentially give me something to where I see what happens to Mills the next day? Sure, you could, but why would you? Like, right. That is the perfect ending to a film. It is a film that is like a gut punch at the end of the movie. And you walk away going, oh my God, I can't believe what I just seen. If somebody came in and said, hey, we're going to reboot Seven, but we're going to give you a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
My first instinct, my first reaction would be like, why? And I want to know who got pitched on The Strangers, which was a whole, well, it's not wholly original because I've said before there's a movie from France called Them, which is basically the same movie, and they more or less came up with the same story and rebooted it for The Strangers. But the concept of people in a house, mass strangers attacking them, and the motive is you were home. There's
Yeah.
no motive. You were just in the wrong place, the wrong time, and
Random
got fucked.
violence.
And that's what's so scary about it. But that is also exactly it. That is what's so scary about it. There is no motive. There is no you fucked over my brother in college or you ran over my friend in the road. None of that. This is not like motivated revenge. This is you were home, we picked on you, and now we're going to murder you. And The Strangers was so perfectly crafted and terrifying. And that final scene of when they finally get, Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler's characters and they kill them and then they walk away and you kind of see like they're just kind of going about their day and these are people. They're not, it's not some weird cult. It's just people who pick these people out of a lineup or out of a random place and decide to murder them. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. I don't need to know more. I don't want to know more because that's what makes it terrifying. And I know they did do a sequel to Strangers Pray at Night, and from my memory, most people didn't like that movie because it wasn't as good, and it's just like, why did you need to do it again? But the idea was essentially the same. It's just that strangers in a different place, a different setting. I don't need 3 movies of them going after one person. And then we're getting background. We know that. I mean, this is not a spoiler. Like, that's the entire, I mean, if you can't figure out going into the second movie, they're trying to give you more background on who the strangers are, then clearly you weren't paying attention. I don't need to know that. The terrifying thing about The Strangers is I don't know anything about. So this, even though I wouldn't put this, I think The Strangers is an incredible movie. Go back and listen to our review of the original Strangers. It's a pretty strong movie. And you and I are both Brian Bertino fans. You in particular, I know you're a big Brian Bertino fan.
Big time.
But even I would say like 7 is a better overall movie. But I would say either one, I don't need a sequel for either one. I don't need a backstory. So I just want to know, Patrick, what executive got pitched this idea and said, you know what a great idea. Did they actually read the script? Did they actually understand what they were doing? Because watching this movie unravel in the theater, I'm just like, who gave this shit a green light? Who said this is a good idea?
I mean, it goes right back to my money laundering theory. Like there was money that needed to be washed. And like they had a specific, and I looked up right now. Strangers Chapter 1 was labeled 8.5 million, but I don't know if that's across 3 movies. Let's just pretend it is. It's still actually like well executed. Like it's not a poorly shot movie. It's not even necessarily poorly acted. It's poorly written, very, very poorly written. And the why of it all, Damon, I think ultimately was like, somebody somewhere knows that horror is as hot as it gets right now. And they were like, yeah, it's way better if we just have 3 movies raring to go. And people will get super pumped about that. It's a beloved cult movie. We'll just we'll do a soft reboot of it. So that way, new fans can understand it. Like it's kind of a no-brainer on the surface why they did all this. But in the execution, it is baffling. I don't know how much because I feel like my time has been wasted for 2 movies. I don't know how much I want to waste our audience's time belaboring non-spoiler stuff, Damon. I don't know when you want to get into spoilers, but because there are a few things about this movie that I think are like strong spoiler stuff. Aside from the basic idea, which is just Maya from the first movie is recovering in the hospital and has to now run from the strangers yet again. That is essentially what part 2 is, but without any spoilers in it. I don't know how much more I can elaborate on this movie pre-spoilers other than to say, I don't get it. I don't, they must really, whoever said yes to this must really either A, not give a shit about the original strangers at all. And that's in all reality, probably true. A lot of the people involved probably were like, I don't know, it was just some movie. I guess Liv Tyler was in it and people liked it, but it wasn't a blockbuster, so who gives a shit, right? Like we can kind of take the momentum from it and we'll just cannibalize it. I think it's how it feels. They either don't give a shit about the movie or they're bad storytellers overall. And Rennie Harlan's got a good track record. So it's weird to just be like, well, Rennie Harlan, like, phoned this one in. Like, I don't get it. There's a lot of question marks here, Damon. There's big question marks in terms of the execution of these movies. I don't get it. I don't get why they think putting this stuff in front of us is going to work. I mean, it's clearly working. Here we are talking about it.
Two quick points. We'll get to spoilers. One, I I genuinely I have one major plot point I want to bring up real quick before we get to spoilers. And this is not a spoiler because we're only getting a second movie because you know that Maya, Madeline Pesha's character, survives. If these are because the way they and this is in the trailer, the way they plot this out is that these killers have been doing this for a while. Like this is not an isolated first time incident. How bad are you at your job that you have one job to kill two people in their cabin and you don't kill and make sure one of them is dead? That to me is the essential stupidity of this movie. Because this isn't like it was a gun battle or it was an epic fight for survival and the killers died or the killers were seriously injured. The end of the Strangers chapter 1 is literally Maya and her fiance tied to chairs and they're getting stabbed to death. How bad are you at your job that you just didn't do it to one of them and then didn't even bother to check afterwards to make sure she's actually dead? That to me seems like a really poor job. And that's the only reason we're getting a second film. We are literally getting a second film because three killers failed to kill one of two victims that they literally had tied up to a chair and just like, we'll just leave her here. It's good. That to me seems like really, really stupid plotting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that just seems like a really, really dumb idea that you don't like, you go through all this trouble to torment and kill these people, and then you just don't bother to check if one of them is actually dead. And by the way, not even harmed to the point where she's in like a coma. Like, she's fine, basically. Like, she had one stab wound and she's in the hospital. How bad are you at your job? That's like, you're just like, we didn't, she's fine, cool, okay, we'll go finish the job. It is absolutely mind-numbing. That is part one. Part two, and this is the last thing I'll say before spoilers. When you get into a series that is made to be a series, like you know it's going to be a trilogy in this particular case. When we got through, and I know you're going to laugh because I'm bringing up one of my all-time favorites. When we got Halloween 2018, and we got to Halloween Kills, and you really didn't like Halloween Kills, but Halloween is such an iconic franchise, there was no way we were not going to review Halloween Ends. Now, that ended up being one of my all-time least favorite movies. I despise that film. Like, I've said on this show, it's on site. If I see David Gordon Green, we're fighting. Like, we are throwing down. Fuck Corey, fuck that entire movie. But I'm saying this right now, Patrick. I'm not a completist. I'm not a finalist. We're not reviewing Chapter 3. Done. Because
you don't want to see where this goes.
I want to erase this from my memory. Like, I want to be able to go in like with the Men in Black thing where they just erase my memory and I'm like, did you see Chapter 2? No, sure didn't. Like, that's how pointless this movie was. Like I am a completist. I have a hard time not like, even when I hate something, I'm like, I got to see it through. You know, like I hated the Star Wars, the new trilogy. I hated The Last Jedi. You know this. I despised that movie. But there was no way I was not going to see The Rise of Skywalker. That movie also sucked like a Dyson, but I had to see it. I had to go through and see it. I have no desire I can't. I don't think I could do it. Like, I really don't think I can pay and go to the theater and sit and watch Chapter 3 because at this point, I don't understand like why this is happening, why this thing is getting stretched into 3 films, and who decided this was a good idea. So, hey, I this is not a dictatorship. This is a democracy. There are two people on this podcast. If you feel that strongly about chapter 3 and you're like, Damon, we gotta review it. It's the third chapter. We gotta finish it. Then I'll, for your sake, for our friendship, I will go see it. But right now in my head, Patrick, I'm saying no fucking way.
Here's how it goes. I also don't want to see the third one, but we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/rewind to living dead. Join the club. We get new members every day. It's really awesome, actually. I'm gonna leave it up to our patrons. Ultimately, if we review this thing, that's how I'll go. I'll put a vote up, yes or no, and we will see how that goes. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And they seem to like to see us squirm. So something tells me we will end up seeing chapter 3. Damon, yeah, I don't know. I think they're fucking with us over there at Lionsgate. They're literally like, let's see how far we can go. Let's see how far they will fucking go. Let's see how much of their money we can get. That's all I can guess with this Stranger series. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. All right, let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Strangers Chapter 2, you're luckier than I am. But we are not going to get into full spoilers. And I'm not saying this to be cruel to a movie. You know this. We never go out of
Yeah,
our way
we
to be
don't
cruel to
like
a
doing
movie.
that.
But I'm telling you right now, the spoilers don't matter.
Yeah.
Because where this movie starts and where this movie ends are almost in the exact same place. So I'm not saying this to be a dick. I'm not saying this to be like, just like I hated this movie. I did. But when I say this is spoilers, it is, but really, you're not really getting spoiled much of anything because my biggest takeaway after I left the theater with this one was why do we even get this movie? Like, why didn't they just condense this down to 2 movies? We didn't even really need 2, but sure, let's just go ahead and make 2. But why do we need 3?
Yeah.
So, Patrick, the basic plot, as we are now in full spoiler, so be aware. The plot of this one is this. Maya survives her attack. The killers are really bad at their job. 3 of them could only manage to kill 1 of them, and Maya gets away with 1 stab wound in her stomach. She's fine otherwise. She wakes up in the hospital. The police are there questioning her, and once again, everyone in the fucking town is weird. They're like, oh, what happened? And like they're all being odd and weird acting, and like it's almost like you're in a cursed town or some shit. And basically, the killers find out she's alive because God forbid they could check her pulse before they leave the fucking cabin, and they come after her again. That's the plot.
That's it.
That's it. They come after her
That's
again.
it.
That is literally the plot of the movie, and she runs for her life again. Except this time, she interacts with some random people driving down the road. She gets lost in the woods. She goes back to the cabin where she got attacked. She goes back to the cabin where she met those people. That's it. Like, it's literally the same plot as the original, except this time it's Maya out in the open versus Maya being attacked in a home invasion thriller. All it is are the 3 killers coming to finish what they should have finished back in the first movie. That's the entire plot.
That is the plot. I mean, she wakes up in the hospital bed. She understands that her fiance is gone. And then minutes later, not even minutes later, the chase ensues, right? The strangers show up at the hospital and Maya has to run for her life yet again. Um, Damon, I think that, how do I put this? This movie sucks. I'm just, I don't know. I'm failing to find the words, Damon. I really am because it's just a long sequence that, by the way, relies on a lot of coincidence. If you're part of our Patreon, you already know this, but we just talked about the last 2 episodes of Alien Earth on our Patreon. You want to hear our thoughts on Alien Earth? We've got all of them over there on patreon.com/rewind to living dead. Shameless plug. That show for me started to lose steam because of it was relying on coincidence. So this movie, because she's running, she's got a stab wound, she's in a hospital gown, basically relies on coincidence to get her through the movie. She'll run somewhere and Scarecrow guy will be right there with his axe, and then something will happen just at the right time to get her to allow her to get away. And you're like, okay, you can do that once. That's fine. It's literally how she gets through the movie. She'll be running down. She'll be running down a dark, rainy road, and she'll walk out into the middle of the road, and right at the right time, a car passes by and picks her up, and then that car, by coincidence, has boots in it so she can run, and by coincidence, it can do this, and by coincidence, she can do that. So the movie just relies on that to just carry her all the way through the movie. By coincidence, she shows up at the cabin that she was in when she was attacked by the strangers. By coincidence, there's an FBI agent sorry, an internal affairs agent that shows up to rescue her, and by coincidence, he gets shot by an arrow at the right time. It's like holy fuck, like just a paint by numbers, repetitive chase sequence through the entire thing. That's why this movie's bad. And I think it's important to say that because I think it's not enough to just go, it was just one long big chase sequence. Well, so is a lot of horror movies that we enjoy. Alien is basically one long chase sequence after one great buildup. They have a great setup, and then from the chest burster scene on, it's run for your fucking life. This movie was just like, what if we just say fuck you to the audience? What if we just like didn't consider that they're like just they have a modicum of intelligence and just find an excuse to make 90 more minutes of a movie. That's what this is. That's why I have a problem with this movie. Now, there is an element of this movie, and you mentioned a little bit of it in pre-spoilers. The only other thing they do in this movie, aside from that, is they take you back in time, Damon, to Little Pinup Girl, which is a very creepy thing to say, young pinup girl and young Scarecrow. And it turns out they were little friends way back when, Damon. Help me, Damon, because why did we even need this? Now there's a problem with revealing too much of your mysterious character. And then there's like explaining straight up and down why they are who they are and then doing that very poorly. So please, Damon, you're the master of story. Explain to me why we needed these little vignettes that go back in time to tell us how young pinup girl and young scarecrow became the strangers we know and love today.
So I'm going to disagree and say the why because we still don't know why. All we got was
Yeah,
two
well, that's
little
true.
two little kids who were friends when they were little, and then another girl came along, kind of stole the boy away, and the girl got jealous. And they used to play a game at their school where they would hide. They had like a little like tree house kind of thing with like a door at the bottom and like a little stairwell, and they used to climb on it at school. And someone would go in the door, they'd knock on the door, and they'd say, "Is Patrick there? Is Damon there?" And they'd open the door. "Oh, gotcha." I don't know what the point of that game is, but sure, whatever. And apparently, the girl who took away the boy's attention, who became Scarecrow, her name was Tamara. And so he would knock on the door, "Is Tamara there?" And she would answer, "Oh, it's Tamara." And then at one point, she kisses him. And then the little psycho girl who became pinup girl gets all jealous. And long story short, they kill Tamara. And all the people come out of the building like, "Oh my God, you killed a girl. Oh, Jesus Christ." And they painted a smiley face in the pile of blood. And you're like, oh, wow. You didn't learn the why. You didn't even learn who. You just learned that there's two little psychopaths. And they
Yeah.
continue to be psychopaths into adult life. That's literally all you learn. You don't learn anything. Once again, the most unnecessary origin story in the history of origin stories. And that little vignette, those little vignettes, you get it like sprinkled throughout the movie of like the little girl being creepy, and then like the little girl befriends a boy, and then the boy befriends another girl, and it's just like drawn out, and whatever. You get the big origin of like pinup girl and Scarecrow were friends as children, and they murdered a girl. That's literally the origin story. But this speaks to the heart of one of the biggest problems of these new Strangers movies. And we mentioned it with the last one too, at chapter one. You're allowed to have a small, weird town with a couple creepy characters. That's kind of come to be expected, just like every Friday the 13th movie has that. A lot of the movies have that. But not every single fucking person in your town has to be weird and off-putting and suspicious.
Yeah.
Every single person that you meet in this movie, they want you to suspect is one of the strangers. Every single person. She gets picked up on the road by one of the nurses who tends to her in the hospital after she escapes. And she's there with her weird, I guess, girlfriend or roommate. I don't know what it is. They're both acting weird and creepy. And they got this like weird gospel program playing on their stereo, which I guess if you're incredibly religious, you do that, but it was just like really like they did it to make it seem creepy.
Yeah.
And then big plot moment here. They're randomly driving down in the pouring rain down a darkened road in the middle of nowhere, by the way. Nothing around. Like, literally
Right.
nothing around. And these two dudes are just standing in the middle of the road. They're like, oh, it's our roommates. The fuck? And they say, oh, our car, we left our keys in the bar. We had to walk down here. Okay, A, where the fuck's the bar? Because this is literally in the middle of the woods somewhere. And once again, it's like, oh, we got to introduce two more characters that could be the killers. And so it's two girls up front, two guys in the back with Maya between them. And they just keep like weirdly looking at her, and she's getting panic attacks, and she thinks she sees the strangers. And everyone's acting ooky and kooky and creepy. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're trying. You're trying desperately to say anybody could be the strangers. That's what they're trying to say. But since we got to this town in Oregon, Venus, I think is what it's called, every single fucking person has been that. There's not been one normal. The one sort of normal person you meet in this movie is when she gets at this like horse farm and the woman comes out and says, the sheriff's not going to help you, and then she gets shot in the neck. She has one line before she gets shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And she has a gun drawn on Maya, so it's not like she's like the friendly one. Every single person you meet in this movie is suspicious and creepy. You can't do that. You can't, like, literally, you cannot make every single person in the movie creepy and weird. It just kills the vibe of your movie. I don't care that you're trying to make us guess, like, is this one of the killers? That's not the point of the strangers. I don't care who the strangers are. That's what you've missed.
Yeah.
And here, last thing I'll say about this. At the end of the movie, one of the strangers gets killed. Which one is it? Dollface or Pinup Girl?
I think it was Pinup Girl. Yeah.
Pinup Girl. Hilarious moment. The scarecrow guy goes up and finds her dead, holds her in his arms, and you see the flashback of them as children and shit. He pulls off her mask. Big reveal. Were you alone in thinking, who the fuck is that?
Because yeah, I was like, who the fuck is it?
It was a dramatic moment in the movie. Like, they pulled out the mask, they did it close up. You're like, oh my gosh. I had to read the fucking synopsis at home on Wikipedia to realize it was the fucking waitress right? from the diner.
That's who I thought it was, because I think, and that was weird because at the beginning of the movie, they make it very clear. They do this thing where they juxtapose the image of young pinup girl with the waitress. So you're like, okay, they're telling you very clearly that's who it is. The problem with that reveal scene is it's in poor lighting. It's in really dark. It's on a dark, stormy road. So when he pulls the mask off, you can't tell that it's the waitress. I'm like 90% sure that's her, but it's really hard to tell. She's also at a weird angle. Like, she doesn't match up with the waitress. So it's very hard to tell, but I assumed, I was like, I think that's the waitress, and that's not how you want to feel in that reveal moment.
Well, when you have that big reveal, just like, let's just say a Scream movie, like when you pull up the mask and you realize it's Billy Loomis and Stu Macher or whatever, that, like, it's shocking because you're not supposed to see them coming. You're not, and obviously in Billy's case, you think he's dead, or he thought he got stabbed earlier. This had no impact. They show you the waitress at the beginning of the movie, and then there's like one other scene in the diner, and that's it. And so when they revealed it, I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
Is that the nurse? Is it the fucking diner girl? Like, because there's only like maybe 10 characters in this movie, and they're trying to make it this big dramatic reveal. Like, okay, why do I care? Like, I don't. Like if you're gonna make it a big dramatic reveal, you got to make it matter who it is. And we just met the waitress 10 minutes ago. That means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was Maya's roommate or some shit, like she was in the movie and she was trying to kill her roommate, then maybe, yeah, okay, I get it. Like you're trying to make it a
Yeah.
dramatic reveal in that regard. But the dramatic reveal of it being the waitress, I'm like, well, how does this matter? Like, okay, it's the waitress. Great. It could have been the fucking copy shop girl at fucking Kinko's for all the fuck I care. It doesn't matter. They're just randomly killing people. So what does it matter that it's a fucking waitress?
The way this movie lays out, and I can't begin to tell you how poorly this movie lays out, but they might as well have done this. As the mask comes off and you see her face, just cut to a flashback of the damn waitress and just like go, oh, it was the waitress. Like you might as well. It's not like this movie is so slick that it shouldn't do that. But like I am sure in the test audiences, if they did them, people were like, who the hell's behind the mask? And if like at least Damon, if two people say it, you need to consider it. If three or four people say it, it's a problem and you need to fix it. So just just put the next image up, which is like the waitress smiling, and then show young pinup girl
But
smiling, and just show it's all the same person. Like just do it. Just
but
make it clear.
but even if it is, it doesn't matter because we
That
don't know
it's
anything about the
literally in my
waitress.
notes. It's literally in my notes. My notes are I just pulled them up. I go baby doll's mask comes off and I don't remember who she is. Does it even matter? I was like, it really doesn't because I don't care. And I think, and actually to your point, all those flashbacks and all these people in the town, the fact that those two little kids were like in some sort of, it looks like a religious school of some sort. They're all in like uniforms and stuff. I think what they're trying to imply, and it doesn't seem like they're even trying very hard, but I think what they're trying to imply is that this entire town is maybe part of a cult or part of a religious sect or something, a very private religious sect, and that when these little kids committed this act all these years ago, the town just protected them. The town protects their own and just says, "Oh, we had this horrible thing happen, but we're not going to let people take our children away." Like this again, some sort of a cult attitude there. And that ties into like, why is everyone in the town a fucking suspect? Because everybody in the town is in on this. Everybody in the town is in on protecting these two little psychopaths, and they have forever, for as long as can be. And it sort of shows itself in the character of Gregory. Gregory he's one of those guys standing in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a road, in the middle of the night, and just happens to be the roommates of the people driving that. Like the fucking coincidences in this movie drive me insane. And he gets in the car and he's got the smiley face tattoo on his neck. And you go, well, that's Scarecrow guy. It must be. And boy, is he acting just uber creep. Like abnormally creepy. Like it doesn't make sense. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And I kept going, so is he Scarecrow or not? Right? And they spend a lot of time with him throughout the journey. And eventually he addresses that Maya is staring at his tattoo, and he goes, "Yeah, you like the neck tattoo? We all got it we went to a Christian camp when we were a couple of years ago, and we all got the same tattoo." That kind of ties into some sort of a cult idea, or like we're all in this together kind of thing. Like we're all marked ones, if you will, something like that. And then ultimately it turns out he's not Scarecrow. I think he does run away like he drives off in a huff, and then all the strangers attack. So I'm like, okay, he's either not Scarecrow or he's one of the Scarecrows. He's like in a Scream situation where he wears the Scarecrow mask sometimes. And that, believe me, that may be coming down the line in chapter 3. I think that's what they're going for. It's just like, who gives a shit? If you're going to do that, please establish some characters. Please do some character work in your movie. They don't. That's the problem with Strangers Chapter 2. They say, fuck characters. Fuck character development. poof, it's gone. We can't waste our time in this movie developing characters. Not going to happen. So all these little reveals, all these little things, and even though I'm sure they would argue, no, 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 we're developing Scarecrow and Pinup, and I go, that's a mistake because, as the great Damon Martin says, you missed the point. The reason why everybody loves the Strangers is because we know nothing about the Strangers. So the fact that you're developing the two characters you should not be is a failure. That's a failure to understand the material. Period. And that says a guy who is, you know me, Damon, I'm not traditional. I say buck convention at any possible cost, but the conceit of the Strangers is that they are completely mysterious. Is that it is random. They fuck with their logic so bad all the time. They even say at the very beginning, there's a beginning title card that explains there's like something like 1,600 deaths a year that are completely random. They even double down with it at the beginning of this movie. So you need the randomness, you need the mystery. So all of this buildup and all this reveal to like basically, I'm assuming in chapter 3, you are going to understand who the Strangers are on a deeper level is a grand mistake. I don't want to see chapter 3 because I think that's where they're going. I think that's what all this is about, and I hate it.
I think you're right. I think this is like some kind of weird cult, and at the end it's gonna be Maya like in the center, and like there's gonna be like 1,000 scarecrows and 1,000 pinup girls and 1,000 doll faces. Like they're
Yeah.
all everybody in town, the sheriff,
They're
the
all the
waitress,
strangers.
they're all the strangers. And when one man goes down, another picks up, whatever. But wouldn't it like? I'm not saying like this is a modern movie. It's set in 2021, I think, or 2020. I think that's like the actual setting, or 2022
Right.
is the actual setting of the movie. So everyone has cell phones and things like that. Like, wouldn't the Yelp rating for this town be like the worst thing ever? Because if they just kill every person who ever comes here as a visitor, wouldn't eventually like don't go fucking near Venus because you'll never walk out again? Like, wouldn't there be a Yelp rating on there saying like a TripAdvisor being like, yeah, my friends went there and never came home again? Like, if they kill every visitor that comes there in the entire town of the strangers, that place would be like fucking like they would have it roped and cordoned off. Like no one would go there.
And Gabe says as much, or excuse me, Gregory says as much. The creepy guy, the creepy roommate says as much. She goes, "How many are there?" And he goes, "I don't know, 100 more." If 100 people die in your town, someone's going to notice.
Yeah.
Okay, it would have to go way up the chain, Damon. We're talking about the entire state of Oregon would have to be in on it. Honestly, on the judicial, on the executive side, on the legislative side, they would have to literally be protecting this town at a scale so grand. Like, just don't bother. Don't bother with these
I'm
details. These
I'm
details
currently
fuck things up.
I'm currently wearing a True Detective shirt for season one of the greatest single seasons of television in history. And
Phenomenal.
this is not really a spoiler for that show, but one of the things they talk about is like they had two massive hurricanes in New Orleans where tons of people died and were lost and like took forever to like figure out where people were because of the flooding and everything. And at one point in the show, Matthew McConaughey's character, Rustin Cole, goes, I think our killer was killing during that time, but because there was so much confusion and lost people, like he was having a good old time because no one was looking for. They were finding drowned bodies, and he was just not like they were just popping up as dead bodies, not knowing that he was actually the one killing. Like there was a serial killer in play, but because of the tragedy of Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, things like that, like they got lost in the mix, kind of thing. That I was like, okay, that makes sense. And they're still not saying he killed like 100 people. They're just saying like he didn't get caught because there were so many dead bodies at that point because of the tragedy of the hurricane that like cases didn't get followed up on. People were drowned. They were found in the water. Like, well, they must have drowned. It was a hurricane. Move on. Like, let's move on to the next one because there's just so many. But like you said, like I don't care how small your town is unless you are on an island in the middle of the South Pacific on your own and there's no one ever coming there. Someone's going to figure out that every time a stranger goes to this town, they never leave again. I'm joking about the TripAdvisor Yelp thing, but I'm serious also. Like, if this is the case, if they are a cult, they just kill people to come there, someone's going to figure out that every time someone goes there, they die. This is not New York City where there's like a billion people. You're like, a lot of people die in New York City 'cause there's a billion people there. Of course, a lot of people die. Venus looks like it's got like 20 people or 100 people in the town. If every single time somebody goes to Venus, they don't come back out alive again,
Red
wouldn't
flag.
someone start looking into it? It boggles the mind, like, and how, like, I agree. I think that's probably where they're going. It's a cult thing, it's a religious thing, and there's more than one. I feel like that's gonna be the thing. Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
see, like, there's gonna be more strangers pop up. Like, one man goes down, the next man steps in. Now it's not the diner girl, it's the nurse or whatever the fuck. But I'm just
Yes.
like, the whole point of the strangers is the randomness of it all. And the terrifying thing is it could happen to anyone. You're taking every little bit of nuance of that away with this series. And not only do I not care about the third chapter because you're absolutely right. I believe that's where they're going. And there's going to be like four scarecrows and five pinup girls and whatever the fuck. But I'm not joking when I say, like, if this is going on for all this time, and there's all these people dying, and you live in a one horse town in the middle of Oregon, somebody's eventually going to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to eventually ask questions. And like the fact that you don't even acknowledge that just tells me how badly plotted this movie is, like how badly written the story is. And it's utterly, utterly ridiculous. Like everything about this movie is ridiculous, from them stabbing a girl and letting her live to the killers coming into a hospital and just running roughshod like no one works there. And then nobody lives in the town. As you said, just coincidence after coincidence. You're her
Yeah.
fighting on the road, running into the nurses, and they just happen to run into their roommates in the middle of the road, in the middle of fucking nowhere. Everyone's creepy. Everyone's weird. Everyone's off-putting. It's just too much. It's like way, way too much.
It's an insult to audiences, honestly. It's to say like the audiences are dumb enough they won't ask these questions. And so we can be lazy about it. I've said it before on this podcast. Audiences are more sophisticated than ever. Sometimes literalism does get in the way, but this again, you can give me one coincidence. Don't make the whole movie coincidences. Then it's just bad. Then you're just asking me to ignore how lazy you're being with this writing. That's not okay. It's not okay to just go, yeah, they'll ignore it. We don't. We watch a lot of horror movies, and horror is big right now. Horror is so big. Average Joes are watching it all over the place, not just the horror freaks. Everybody shows up for horror now. You got to show up with something good. You got to show up with something that puts in a little bit of effort. I mean, but truth be told, Damon, I think it was a mistake ever to even remake these movies because of the conceit that you shouldn't ever know anything about the strangers, ever. And they were like, what if we made three movies that tell you everything about the strangers? And I would have been like, fuck you, get out of my office. But that's me. And I probably wouldn't be a great executive. It's just where they're headed, I don't like. How they are getting me there, I like even less.
It's just it's and like last thing I'll say before we get to categories, if you're gonna make a killer, like a mass killer story, and you're gonna make multiple movies of it, like it or not, you got to give us a plot. And you got to give us a reason why we care. Like at this point, you're going into a movie, you're going to go into a third movie, and their excuse is we're going to tell you who the strangers are, but that just takes away the entire point of this movie
Yeah, that's what I
because
don't
it's
want.
just it's supposed to be a random act of violence. Now, if you're going to flip it on its head and say that it's like this cult and they just kill everybody, once again, I'm still going to butt up against it and say, well, hold on now. Wouldn't you somebody have asked questions after all these years that you just pile up dead bodies and people to go to Venus never come back out again? Wouldn't that red flag go somewhere? And then part three of that or C of that is there is a plot. Like there's a reason why they're picking who they're picking. They certainly sure as shit haven't given us any clue about that yet to like tell us there's a reason behind it. And by now, and by the second movie, we should know that. We should know what your purpose is. We shouldn't get to a third movie before we understand why the fuck this is happening. If
Yeah.
that's the entire story, if like there is no randomness, there is a reason why they're going after these particular people. You're now going into your third movie, and I still have no fucking clue. So you didn't do your job,
No.
and because it seems like they're sticking with the random thing, but they're trying to expand upon the history of The Strangers, which once again ruins the entire point of The Strangers, ruins the entire point of the randomness, ruins the entire point of you just happen to be home. Because they literally fucking said that at the end of chapter 1. Why are you doing this? Because you're here. Well, then you just told us there's no plot. You just told us there's no reason behind this because you're just saying because you're here. Now you're trying to explain it away. If it's a cult, there is a fucking reason. It boggles my mind, Patrick. I want to set fire to this movie.
Yeah, fair enough, Damon. Fair enough.
Should we get to spoilers? Should we get to categories? Because
let's get to categories.
Let's kick things off as we do each and every week here. This is actually a pretty small cast, so I don't think it's going to be a very deep category, but let's talk about best performance. So, Patrick, when it comes to The Strangers Chapter 2, who gets your best performance?
Damon, it goes without saying, the person that does all the heavy lifting in this movie is Madeline Pesh. And there were points where I thought to myself, this is all just a vehicle for Madeline Pesh to act. That's really all it is. Like it was just like, okay, run over there and scream, run over there and sew yourself up, run over there and do this thing. And for her, that's probably great. Actors love having screen time. So just for sake of screen time, I'm just going to give it to her. I will be honest. At one point in my notes, by the way, this movie, very little dialogue because it is really just about chase scenes. But anytime there was, I was really like hating it. And then in my notes, I put, I wish there was less dialogue in this movie. Damon, there's maybe 2 pages of dialogue total in this movie. And I was like, we should have less. I think we need less. Long story short, it's Madeline Pesh.
I mean, it is because she's really the only person who has any screen time in this movie. I mean, and by the way, the guy who plays Gabriel Basso, yeah. I like him a lot as an actor. He's in the show The Night Agent on Netflix, and I really enjoy that show. And he's a big mixed martial arts enthusiast. I know he trains with Boss Rutan, so like he's a guy that I was like, ooh, this is cool. Like he's an actual student of martial arts. And I've seen interviews with him. Seems like an incredibly cool guy, and I really like his acting in that movie. When I saw he was in this, I was like, my first thought was like, oh man, maybe they got like a cool, good extra character. No, it really isn't.
He's probably the only other person that gets any real time to act in this movie anyway. So you might as well just give him the other best performance.
Yeah, but I'm going to give it to Madeline Pesh. I know this is a really weird reason to give it to her, but I will say this. Here's my one compliment of this movie. Remember in The Strangers Chapter 1 when I said when you're going through these harrowing sequences and you've been chased and cut and brutally beaten and I said, and I mean this, Madeline Pesh is a beautiful woman. I'm not going to deny that and say she's not gorgeous. She is stunningly gorgeous. And I said in the first one, I was like, couldn't you have like dirtied her up a little bit? Like by the end of the movie, I was like, she still looks pretty, like she looks pretty non-disheveled. Like she looks pretty goddamn good. They actually did it in this movie. They dirtied her up, they cut her up, they beat her up a little bit to where she actually looked like she had been chased through the woods and chased through hospitals and dirty water and mud, and like they actually dirtied her up a little bit. Now, it's Madeline Pesh, so yes, she is still a very beautiful woman, but I was just like, at least they did that. Like, at least they went as far as like making her cut up and kind of beat up and looking like she had been chased by 3 killers. So weirdly, I'm giving her best performance, but it's also to the actual effects people that like they kind of made her look like she was going through this. Whereas in the first movie, at the end of the movie, I was just like, yeah, she looks pretty much the same now as she did at the start.
Damon, this will be our biggest disagreement of all time because they totally did the thing where she did that. So the opening sequence, she gets out of the hospital and she escapes into the middle of the night and it's storming. It's bad out there. And she's running around, she's tumbling through mud and shit and then day breaks and she's finally gotten away and she spends a long time sewing herself up by the side of the river. Her hair is perfectly blow dried. Like perfectly blow dried. And I'm like, no, like her hair should be sopping wet and disgusting and it should be caked in mud. And she's literally sewing herself up. And I was like, somebody missed right here because she looks perfect. She looked perfect in that moment.
Okay. Here's where you're wrong, Patrick. Yes, you're right.
Do tell.
Now here's the thing. I'm trying to give one compliment to this movie and They did give her a gash on her forehead that she
They
had.
gave
She had
her
to
a
say,
gash. She's got that.
I'm not saying it's good, Patrick. I'm saying it's better than the last one.
Okay, fine, better then. But I'm just saying that one moment I was like, wait, she just spent all night out in the woods in a hospital smock, getting rained on and rolling through mud, and then the minute day breaks, her hair looks better than mine, Damon, which is hard to get. I mean, she had the perfectly blow dried hair, and I was like, okay, come on, guys.
And there's a moment after they rescue Maya and she wakes up in the bed at the weird cabin with like the weird people with Gregory and all them. And she crawls out of bed. She's wearing like a sports bra and like a little boy shorts. And in that moment, I'm not trying to be chauvinistic or pig or whatever, men, whatever, but like I'm just like, you put that in there because you wanted us to look at how gorgeous Madeline Petch is in that moment. You were not trying to prove anything in that moment. You were not trying to like show us anything other than like, hey, let's get her in a pair of underwear and a bra.
It didn't even make sense too that she was
Yeah.
wearing those clothes because she was in hospital smocks, and then so somebody put underwear on her. Why wouldn't you just put her in like shorts? You know what I mean? Like you put her in
Yeah.
shorts and a loose t-shirt. She's got like wounds and shit. You wouldn't put her in like a sports bra and like and tight panties. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I was just like, you did this purely because you're like, hey, Madeline Pesh, let's put her in a bra and panties and get her walking around
Yeah.
for a minute. It's mind boggling. Patrick, next category, boy, this is a tough, this is a rough one right here. MVP.
This was the easiest one for me, Damon.
Is there an MVP for the Strangers Chapter 2?
Fuck yeah, there is, Damon. It's none other than Mr. Brian Bertino himself. Because the people at Lionsgate and whoever brought this over to Lionsgate, they were like, we have this great movie over here that we can exploit. The Strangers, everybody loved it. The only reason this movie gets greenlit is because Brian Bertino made The Strangers back in, what was it, 2007, 2009? I forget the year. Because Brian Bertino made that movie that was a genuine cult hit, that is a genuinely very well made and very terrifying movie, this movie gets made. This trilogy got made because Brian Bertino did the hard work first. He went out and made a great movie with a great conceit, which is a random act of violence that pushes people through hell through the test of survival for a single night. Because Brian Bertino did that way back when, these people have jobs and money and a movie trilogy on their slate. So thank you, Brian Bertino, for getting these people a bunch of work. You just employed like a whole large group of people over at Lionsgate. Congratulations to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say thank you because it's almost like if we didn't create that, we wouldn't have this. So, like, I don't know which is a chicken or egg kind of thing here. I'm giving my MVP to Rennie Harlan, but not because I love him in this movie. I love Rennie Harlan, and I kind of feel bad
Yeah.
for Rennie Harlan because Rennie Harlan in the late '80s, early '90s, in a trio of movies in a row, he directed Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, which I adore. He directed Die Hard 2, which I adore, and he directed The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which is demonstrably a terrible movie.
It's a
But I
bad
love
movie.
that. I love that movie. Andrew Dice Clay, like it's so bad it's good. Like it's one of those like when I was a kid I saw it and I shouldn't have been able to watch Andrew Dice Clay stuff, but I
Yeah.
loved it because like it was just so like it was so unbelievably bad, but it was almost like on purposely bad, but I loved it. Like
Yeah.
Wayne Newton and it was just
Yeah,
it's
if you're a
bad
kid,
movie.
that's a great movie.
Priscilla Presley, like I loved Andrew Dice Clay when I was a kid, like him being in a movie. I was like, I fuck yeah. It had Robert Englund in it too, by the way, playing non Freddy Krueger. I loved that. And that was like his trio movie in the late '80s, early '90s in a row. In 1990 alone, he made Die Hard 2 and he made Adventures of Ford Fairlane, or '91, whatever it was. So, yeah, I'm just giving Rennie Harlan some flowers because he's a good
Sure.
director, and these aren't I mean
They're not poorly made.
they're not
Like
poorly
they're
made.
poorly
I mean,
they're well produced. You know what I mean? The lighting is good.
the funniest part about it is when I was talking about that interview where they talked about made changes, they reshot some stuff for part 2 and 3, and Rennie Harlan was explaining it, and I'm just like, Rennie, this I understand you're getting your paycheck here, buddy. Like I get it. Like they're like, hey man, we need you to do some interviews to sell this movie, and he's probably like, oh fuck, all right, how much more are you paying me for this? Because you could tell, like you could just tell. He's just like, oh yeah, we reacted to what the fans said. No, you didn't. This was a bad idea. No one liked it. Now you're just kind of doubling down on it. So I'm just like, dude, give the guy his money. Rennie Harlan's a legend. He's made some incredible movies. These are the exceptions to that rule. But I just want to give him some flowers because I do like Rennie Harlan as a director. Not based upon The Strangers Chapter 1 and Strangers Chapter 2.
No, not based on those at all. Based on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, the best, in my opinion, Nightmare on Elm Street movie for sure.
Okay, so this next category isn't really even a category, and I wanted to bring this up before categories, but you put it as a category, so we might as well get into it. The what the fuck is happening category, but we're just gonna talk about it.
Talk
The
about it.
scene that is by far the dumbest, pointless, literally time wasting scene in this movie, to the point where I was like, when this happened, it's the closest I've come to just walking out of a movie in a long time, where I was just like, what the fuck are we doing here? So at one point, Maya's in the woods. She starts a fire and she's like surviving, and then she hears like a weird growling. And so she jumps in a car. There's like an abandoned car nearby. She jumps in the car, and then the windows break and she hears crashing and growling. And what ends up happening is Maya gets attacked by a fucking wild boar and literally has a revenant fight with the fucking boar in the middle of the woods. Not the scarecrow guy, not pinup girl, not dollface, not some other random person. A fucking wild boar. This is what we're doing, Patrick. This is what we're going for.
Was it a wild boar though? I think it's Scarecrow's boar.
Who the fuck cares?
But this is the funny thing about it is like, okay, so she's on the run, then she decides, well, I'm going to set up camp, because of course you would. Of course you'd stop to set up camp, in the middle of being chased by killers. She stops to do that. They cut back over to the strangers, and he breaks open the chains on this like pen or whatever, and you can hear the snorting and the growling, and I'm like, okay. And then cut to her being revenanted by this 400-pound boar. Damon, I know you're a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll. But both of us know one thing: wild boars will fuck shit up like real bad. And this is a big ass boar, big enough to fuck up this car that's very conveniently 20 feet from her campsite. And it bites her in the leg. That's like, it would have crushed her leg. It's a big fucking boar, and it's ragdolling her around and all this shit. I'm like, okay, on a literal level, she would have been killed. Like, this boar would have killed her for sure. Instead, it's just an excuse to see her get beat up a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. And then they cut to, of course, they have to cut to a flashback of young Scarecrow and young pinup girl playing with little pigs. And he's like, I'm going to teach these boars to do other things. And I was like, okay. Again, less dialogue in this movie, maybe less flashbacks too, while we're at it, and maybe take the whole goddamn boar scene out.
Tell me I'm not wrong in thinking this, because we know there is a movie coming out that we're going to review on this show called Good Boy. And it is a horror movie seen through the eyes of a dog. And every person who has seen it already, because it was released early, like in festivals and stuff. I think it was South by Southwest that came out. Everybody who saw it, the one spoiler they gave, and I'm not. This is the one question. This is not a spoiler.
Right.
The one question everyone had was, how does the dog do? Because
does the dog die is the question.
I am a dog lover. Like, I have 2 dogs. They are my universe. That was my concern. Like, I don't want to see a dog get ripped to shreds or get beat or anything like that. Like, I don't like that. My curiosity is because that's kind of a general sentiment with audiences now. Like, when you put a dog getting harmed in a movie, like, they've seen ratings just plummet because people do not like to see animals get harmed, particularly dogs, because everyone has a dog. My curiosity is, like, did they go for wild boars here because they didn't want Maya to have to kill a dog? Because that's got to be it. Because if he had attacked dogs, it's Oregon. Of course you'd have attacked dogs. That's what not attack. You'd have hunting dogs. You would absolutely have that. There's a real thing where you'd have like hound dogs or you'd have dogs that would go hunting in the woods. That makes total sense. And if you want to have that as a plot device, I'd even understand it. But they
Yeah.
can't do that because they can't have Maya kill a dog. So they're like, how about wild fucking boars? I'm just, oh my God. It is, and the wild boar is a symptom of a bigger problem in this movie, Patrick, which is every death that takes place is just so utterly random and pointless. And let me explain what I mean. So the boar shows up out of nowhere. Yes, I know. Technically, Scarecrow let it out of its fucking pen and went hunting for Maya, of course, because it's a hunting boar. Sure.
Sure.
But in the hospital, when Maya's hiding in one of the morgue chambers where her fiance's at, one of the cold chambers, random janitor comes in. He gets axed. Then we have at the cabin, random state police detective shows up at the cabin. Why did he show up to the cabin? He didn't know she was fucking there. She was at the hospital, supposedly. He just happens to show up at the cabin, which is already cordoned off with caution tape, and they got all the evidence. There is absolutely zero fucking reason for that cop to go there. None.
Yeah.
He would not go there. He would go to the police station and talk to them, and they would go looking for Maya. He had no
Too
reason
many
to
coincidences.
be there. He just shows up when Maya just happens to be inside there, and then he gets shot in the neck. So they got another death. Then they have a random ambulance driver show up to transport Maya to a different hospital. Her friend, which we never really met before, is somehow arranging for her to have a private ambulance take her to a different hospital. Sure. He shows up and gets killed. They just don't have a reason for people to get killed. So like, okay, let's bring in a detective. Let's bring in the hospital guy. Let's bring in the fucking ambulance driver. Let's bring in a fucking boar. It is mind-numbingly stupid how many hoops they jump through to give you deaths, to give you body count, and even the boar. It's like, a wild boar, really? This is the best you could do? Because at least if it was a hunting dog, it would make sense. But I'm telling you, Patrick, and I think I'm right about this, they couldn't allow a dog to get killed on screen. So they're like, well, what animal don't people care about? How about a wild fucking boar? A trained wild boar, apparently.
A trained boar, indeed. Yeah, I mean that's probably why I almost wonder if this was the scene that they added. If they were like, we need to add something else, I'm like, I don't think you did. I don't think you did. I don't think you needed this whole movie, to be honest with you, the way the thing lays out. But yeah, that whole scene had me going, what the fuck is happening? I was like, we have to spend some time to talk about fucking bonkers ass scene.
It's biting her, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Patrick, next category, best scare. Is there a scare in this movie? Is there anything? I don't know.
You know, there's actually quite a few like intentional jump scares in this movie, and that's fine. That's a valid thing to do, and you might as well give us something. If if not a story, then at least try to scare us. And my favorite scare was Hogzilla himself, and that's what I put it as, because she's sitting in that car, and it's like a crusty old car, and then out of nowhere the glass breaks as the boar like hits the car. I was like, that's pretty good, you know, like pretty decent jump scare. There's a couple of other good jump scares in there. So I put this in just to have a category, Damon. What can I say?
Sure. I guess the one I'll go with is when, I can't remember. I think it's when Maya's in the house or she's in one of the, I don't remember where she was at, but at one point, Scarecrow starts breaking through the door and he grabs her by the hair and pulls her out.
Yes.
She has to literally yank her own hair out to get away from him. That was pretty decent, like harrowing moment. That was probably the only one in the entire movie where I was like, oh, that's kind of grody and kind of gnarly and sure, why not? I can't.
Yeah, there's a lot of door scares in the movie.
I just remember him breaking through the door and grabbing her by the hair. I don't remember where it took place at. I just remember that happened.
Well, there's a reason why you're confused. I counted so many door scares. There's so many, like, I'm next to a door, bang. Like, there's so many of those in this movie, I lost count.
Yeah. Next category, Patrick, best kill / best gore. Once again, every kill in this movie is coincidental, minus the fact of, like, I guess the one stranger who gets killed. So, Patrick, who gets your best kill / best gore?
Damon, that is my best kill, which is baby doll, or not baby doll, excuse me, pinup girl gets the scissors in the neck. because it's the first time that like Madeline Pesh fights, or excuse me, Maya fights back in a very solid way. It's like, okay, that works. So it was just satisfying because all the other ones are coincidental. All the other kills are by accident, by chance, by happenstance. This one was intentional. She intended, she struck, and she landed. You know, she didn't like hit her in a dumb place or something. She hit her in the throat, and she got her dead.
Well, she didn't kill her with that. She didn't kill her with that. Remember, she came back and choked
Oh,
her
that's right.
after
Yeah,
that, and it was when she slammed on the brakes and she went flying out of the car.
that's
When she
right.
actually,
That's true. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. That whole particular sequence, I guess,
yeah.
is what I'm getting at.
I'm going with the axe in the back of the janitor at the morgue, not because it's particularly cool, just because the one moment is when Scarecrow pulls the axe out of the guy. It's kind of a gnarly moment when he pulls the axe
Yeah.
out of the dude's back. Sure. Because we had to throw in a random janitor just like we had to throw in the random detective, just like we had to throw in the ambulance driver.
How about the random axe kill, like right at the beginning, which is like I guess it was just showing them killing somebody.
Yeah,
You
sure.
remember that? It was like
Yeah.
very early in the movie. It was like right at the beginning of the movie. It just shows the strangers killing a guy, and he runs the axe through the guy's chest. I don't know what it had to do with the movie at all, but it's there. And I was like, that's actually a pretty good kill. But who knew that it had nothing to do with anything going on in the movie?
I don't know, Patrick. I really don't. Next category, Patrick. Here's the better question: can we survive this horror film? Could we survive sitting through a third one of these movies?
No, no, Damon. And you know what? Can we survive this horror movie? Do we need a chapter three? That I mean, do you want to just combine these categories?
I mean, a I'm not joking when I say this. Like I was joking earlier about like TripAdvisor and Yelp. Like I remember I went on a road trip one time. I drove from Ohio to Dallas, Texas. It was like a 17-hour drive. And at one point, I needed gas and I had to stop at a random gas station in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas. And literally, it was like like you get off the exit and it was like literally like the one light over a gas station kind of thing. And you go in and it was like one of the scariest things ever for me because it was just like there's nothing around, like no lights, no street lights, no houses, literally just like a one. And the convenience store was totally nice, like inside, like it was a normal convenience store, but it was just like fucking terrifying. You get off the highway and there's just
Yeah.
nothing there except this one little gas station. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, I am 100% gonna hear like um and that stop was totally out of necessity because I needed gas. But even in that, I was so hyper aware of like my surroundings that like if somebody had jumped out and done something, I would have 100% stabbed them because I was so hyper aware of my surroundings. Like so, what my point is like them stopping in Venus in the first place was dumb, and then the whole car inconvenience was stupid, and not questioning it, and then just like, oh, let's just stay in town for the. Everything was so coincidental, as you said. So I'm surviving because I'm not stopping in this fucking town, and even if I do, I'm not stopping for long. Like I'm getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah, and I think the vibes were off from moment one, and I've been in towns like that where I'm like, I don't like the vibe here. Florida comes to mind. I was in a smaller town in Florida, and we were in like a restaurant, and everybody was just kind of looking at us, and I was like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
Everybody here is giving us the stink, and we just up and left. It's pretty easy to avoid this place. It's pretty easy to read the room in Penis, Oregon, or wherever the hell they are. Like, just get the fuck out. This is an easy survival.
And like I said, I'm not joking. Like I'm sure someone's got a trip advisor. Like, hey, my friend went to Venus and died, never came back. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll go to the next exit. I'm good.
yeah.
Yeah. Patrick, the next category. Do we need chapter three? I mean, here we are. Like, we know there's gonna be. I just the reception to these two movies have been so poor.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're going to scrap it because they've already filmed it. So there's been money put into it. But like, are they going to release it? Like, because remember originally they were going to do them kind of back to back to back. Like they were going to release part one, and then like the part two was supposed to come out a couple of months later, and then part
Right.
three, like it was supposed to all be within like a 6 or 8 month span. We're already well beyond that. Like, do we need? We don't need chapter three. I'll answer the question. We don't.
We don't need it, but boy, did they want to throw a wrench in there and get you hooked because it ends basically with Maya being, and she's not even cornered. I guess it really just ends on Scarecrow realizing that Pinup Girl is dead, and they cut back to when they were little kids and how they were together and they had their first kill together. So like they're saying, oh, this is like the end of their chapter, if you will. They're the chapter of these two killers together. Um, then like the credits start rolling and you're like, well, that's a weird way to end this movie. And then there's like this tiny little mid-credit scene that basically shows you a little preview of what's going to happen in chapter 3. And what I saw in that preview had me going, I'm sorry, what? Because it shows Maya in the mask with Scarecrow and Dollface, and they've got somebody tied up, and it looks like they're about to kill them. What the fuck is that supposed to be exactly?
I mean, they don't show it specifically as Maya. They just show a girl with red hair with her hair
Oh,
tied back
it's
and her kind of.
her hair tied back. She's wearing the exact same hoodie. They might as well just put a big neon sign saying it's Maya in the mask.
Yeah.
It's the same hoodie. It's her hair, and she's in the mask. And I think that's their little way of going, oh, now wait till you see what we've got. I know you've spent 2 movies and 3+ hours watching nonsense, watching nothing happen, but we're finally going to give you something interesting in this next one. I got news for you. That's not interesting. I'm not into the fact that for the first 3.5 hours of this movie, she's been running from them. And you're going to tell me in the third movie, she's going to join them? Make that. I don't care how you make it make sense. I'm not gonna like that. I'm telling you right now, I don't like that. I don't like that you've officially said we're officially wasting your time with these 2 movies because now she's gonna be one of the strangers. Fuck all that.
It's like the episode of Seinfeld where George has the sunshine carpet cleaners come up and he hears they're a big religious cult. And he's waiting for him to pitch him on joining the cult, and they never do. And then they come back and they've indoctrinated his boss. And he's like, Mr. Wilhelm, you've been inducted. He's like, Wilhelm, my name is Tanya. And he's like, what? Is this like we're gonna just like Maya's like I've been chased and hunted and nearly killed. And now I'm gonna join you because why the fuck not? Like, huh? Just I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't need. Let me just be clear about this. I didn't need chapter one. I sure as shit didn't need chapter two, and I really fucking don't need chapter three.
Yeah, if that was your idea of reeling me in, you continue to miss the point, people.
Yeah. Last category, Patrick. Thankfully, is it scary? At the end of the day, Strangers chapter two. Is it scary?
Let's pretend for a second that we don't know anything about the movie The Strangers that came out back in 2000, whatever. Let's pretend we'd never suffered through the reboot that was Strangers Chapter 1. And I'm just sitting here watching this random movie about a woman who wakes up in a hospital after she survived an attack and she's running from people. On its face, Damon, it is kind of a scary movie. It's not scaring me any. It's frustrating the shit out of me. But I'm trying to go along their goddamn journey and it sucks, right? But if I was a random person who just walked into this movie knowing nothing about it, I'd be like, it's kind of scary. She's being chased by people with axes and knives, and and she's having a hard time getting away, and they're killing everybody that's near her. Kind of scary. I'm just saying, elements wise, you could classify this as a scary movie. It didn't scare me as much as it infuriated me, but it has the elements of a scary movie.
I mean, this is honestly just a remake of Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Laurie wakes up in the hospital. Michael Myers comes to kill her again. And that was a
Yeah.
movie John Carpenter didn't want to make. They're like, we want a sequel. The first one was huge. You got to make us a sequel. He's like, sure, why not? And they had a bad wig on Jamie Lee Curtis. They throw her in the hospital. Michael comes after her again. This is literally that movie again, except and a lot of this also takes place in the daytime, which kind of takes away the creepiness of it all because you're literally just running around at like dawn with like guy in an axe and girl with a doll face, whatever. Yeah. I mean, me personally, again, taking away all the stuff you're talking about, is it on its surface a scary movie? No, it's really not. And that's not me judging this too harshly and saying I just didn't like this movie because I didn't. I'm up for jump scares. I'm up for like genuinely good, but there wasn't even that in this movie. Like there just wasn't. Like it was just a poorly put together movie. And at least if there had been better scares, I would have been like, well, at least there was that. To me, there wasn't even really that. Like it was just like there weren't even really harrowing moments. Like there were a couple of, and literally the bulk of the movie is Maya on her own. There's like 2 or 3 moments where she's actually in the same place at the same time as the strangers. Like the beginning of the movie at the hospital, at one point when she's like at the horse farm or whatever, and then towards the end in the house that she gets away from and then ends up killing Pinup Girl. The rest of it is her on her own being paranoid that she's being chased by the strangers, and around every corner there's a stranger. That's literally the entire movie. So I didn't find it scary at all.
Not scary, just saying it's got scary elements for certainly not for our audience, not for people who tune into us on a regular basis, but for a random person in an audience that didn't know what they were after, it's there. I'm just saying it's a bad movie.
The placating thing, sure, Patrick, sure, it's good. The Strangers Chapter 2 is in theaters. You and I know we always tell people judge for yourself.
Please.
This is one of those movies where I have a pretty safe assumption most people are going to agree with this, though. This is bad and really bad all the way around. So yeah, it's not good. And I'm just saying right now, like unless our audience, and I'm sure they're going to tell us to because I just said I don't want to review it. They're like, go review it, David. We want to hear your head pop off. Yes.
Yeah, that's what they'll want.
If our patrons tell us to review Chapter 3, we will review Chapter 3. If you want us to hate watch it, go right ahead, because I can't imagine there's going to be any saving this trilogy. But sure, we'll review it. That is our episode for this week, Patrick. We'll obviously be back with next week, hopefully a better movie. It can't get much worse. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in each and every week. As also, make sure you check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course over on the website, rewindofthelivingdead.com. Also on our YouTube channel, just search Rewind of the Living Dead. Like and subscribe. It's a big use for us, big help for us. And if you want early access to watch us lose our minds and talk about a really, really bad Strangers episode, you can get early access through our Patreon, patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead. You can also send us messages there, drop us comments. Great way to get in contact that doesn't involve having to just go through a million different social media accounts. So patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead. It supports your guys, supports your show, and you'll get some cool bonuses over there as well. If you do have questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review that aren't over there on patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead, cheap plug, hit us up anytime on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That's rot. livingdead@gmail.com, or find us on social media. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead on Instagram, Twitter /X, and Facebook. And you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And as always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you then.
Peace.